sat sri akal, namaste, Saryanu. Welcome to the Love, Laugh, Live chat show with the beautiful Devinder Ruby and myself, Gurdial Gacha.
So, Pyar Karo Haso Te Jug Jug Jio Wala show. So, I just want to say, Gurdial, let's love with passion.
Okay. Pyar Karo Sare Dil de naal.
And laugh with pleasure.
Haso Dil Par ke.
And live with peace.
Jio Shant de naal.
So, mera naam hai Devinder Ruby. I'm a life and spiritual coach and my lovely co-host.
And my name is Gurdial Gacha and I'm an empowerment and resilience coach. So Dav, we're going to continue with our topic from last week.
Yes, so we are going to continue from the last week's topic, which was about the 5 stages of spiritual awakening. And to see jado sununge thona pata lag jana tusi kede stage which hege. And so I'm going to explain a little bit what spiritual awakening is. So it's another word for this jado jagandiya, and it can be spontaneous, but for most people they can be quite they can be triggered by major life challenges or a trauma.
Yeah.
And I can think of like life threatening disease or illness, or it could be something like say a car accident, or something could have happened simply like a divorce or a pandemic, midlife crisis people tend to have those. Yeah. And even depression, anxiety, even sort of people say they did a near-death experience. Any of these, I mean, this is just a few examples.
Yeah.
It's something very traumatic, something big, that you suddenly start asking your questions: who am I? What am I here? Mera matlab ki hai the duniya ch basan waste,
And what's my purpose?
What is my purpose? Yeah. So then a situation under that you all of a sudden you start questioning these things, and then you wake up and thinking, I can't identify with the person I used to be. This is awakening, it's like a jaga giya. And so in my experiencing, spiritual awakening doesn't happen in a linear time. Let's say like after one thing after the next. Some of us might go through a certain stage, again and again, progressing into the next stage, and for other people might skip a stage altogether, and we might have a combination of 2 stages at once, and which we were discussing last week. Could have been 1 and 2 happening at the same time, because like I said, 5 stages here, so you could come into this lifetime and you probably just gone to stage 4, or you just felt like you went on stage 1, you skipped all the stage, went to stage 5, or you could be in stage 1, stage 2 for most of your lifetime. It jo kuch ho raha hai jithe bhi stage hai again, we're trying to say it's not a mistake, it's exactly where you need to be. And it's like I said, it's just a life journey where we become a self-realization, self-development. It's all just a self-learning, a self-compassion, self-love. It's just here to learn all these different virtues and cultivate all these different understandings of forgiveness and compassion, unconditional love, and all this. But so I just want you to say that whatever tusi jo sununge, you'll get to ape sanu samjh pa jaoge tusi which stages tusi kithe been through, or what stage you are right now. So Gurdial's going to explain a little bit, gives a recap of the stage 1 and 2 we discussed last week.
Yeah, so we piछली week gal kiti si about stage 1, which is the unconscious part of you. So you identify with all the outside world kind of things, so your gender, your race, your religion, jo kuch bhi tusi chote hunde ne sikhya ditti hai thanu tusi ohi sochde that is who I am. Your emotions, the trauma, whatever life experience, you attach yourself to that and you become that person. You're attached to your ego, so you have a lot of negative self-destructive thoughts. So it could be that you're mean, you could be angry, you're quite cynical, everything, you're very reactive in the way that you are towards others and yourself. So in the first stages, you're unconscious of how you are with yourself and with the world. So it's very important that we recognize that this whole spiritual awakening, it's a journey, and it just goes back and forth, and it can be in any way that, like you've just mentioned. So that's the first part, which is the unconscious stage. Again, like I said, it can be very reactive. It's like ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਫਟਾਫਟ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, and you don't think about how you're speaking to people or even taking care of yourself. So you can be sad, hurt, over and over again. You're living like a puppet, Hannah. Yeah, exactly.
You're a slave to your programming, conditioning, and ego.
Yeah, definitely. So everything is about what has happened to you. So you're living from that sort of place of fear, and it's not a very nice place to be when you're unconscious unconscious. So you then go to stage 2, and this is where the ego, or all the labels of who you think you are, start to fall away. You know, you're releasing, you're letting go of your beliefs, your assumptions, your programming. So when we talk about the ego, it's the state of lack. There's a separation. So all of your programs, you're kind of thinking that this isn't who I am anymore. You know, you might be judging yourself and others, thinking that, oh, I'm never going to be rich. Oh, I'm never going to be this. You know, people who are rich, then they get richer.
You just become aware of this, Anna?
Yeah, you become more and more aware, but you're letting go. This is where you're letting go of who you think that you were.
The ego death, the death
so,
of the ego.
you know, and any ideas that you might have had about God, your religion, so they're all being erased because of this major challenge that you may have had. Or it couldn't happen slowly as well, and this is what we've talked about. And this is where you slowly start to become the observer. So you're actually looking at yourself and thinking, well, you know, this is what's happening with my life, and then you kind of not being as reactive. You're letting go of your ego, and you're just starting to become more and more aware. So it's almost like you're starting to wake up. So this is this kind of beginning of your journey. And then we're starting now, we're going to be discussing stage 3, and this is the search. So then we start to all of a sudden think, oh my God, you know, I'm not my ego. I've now sort of become more conscious of why I'm on this earth. What is my purpose? So you start to look at what's going on. So then, like I said, this is stage 3, and this is the search. So this is the phase when you start to search for the truth. When you're at this stage, you read spiritual books, and you know, we talk about this all the time because we just love this subject. You seek out spiritual teachers, you watch videos on videos about spiritual stuff. You just can't get enough. You try spiritual exercises such as meditation, writing contemplations, praying and channeling, etc. You might follow quotes on Instagram, Facebook. You might, for me, my most spiritual awakening came from Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and I feel like that was my deepest connection on kind of starting to become the person that I ultimately want to become. But there's also people, you know, there's thousands of people that we could mention, but there's Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Yogananda. These are just a few that we've kind of identified with as people who talk about spirituality from that angle. So what drives you is that you want to learn. भी तुसी चाहते तुसी सीखिए भी इस दुनिया दे विच मैं काते आया मेरा मतलब की है, you know, मैं की कर सकना, where I'm serving others and not just serving myself. So you want to know what the truth is about who you are, why तुसी काते इस दुनिया च थोड़ा मतलब की है, and who is God, and so on and so forth. So मैंने पता जब मैं छोटी हुंदी सी, when I was about 11, you know, मैं गुरुद्वारे जाती हुंदी सी, but within my family I never felt like I really belonged. But I know that through going to the Gurdwara, I reminded me of that this is where I love that place. I love going to the Gurdwara, I love doing it all, and I felt more connection at such a young age through those experiences. So I felt like my awakening was a much gentler kind of journey. But again, you can go through all the different stages and go back and forth, because it's not, you don't go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Sort of, you can go back and forth depending on, you know, if somebody triggers you, you can go back to stage 1 where you just become reactive and you can become negative about yourself and others. So, and you're going to talk about stage 4, the emergence of
no,
the
I was going to just explain a bit more about.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sometimes you just run away with it.
No, so like you said, like you talked about, you felt that you felt all of a sudden you're looking for that search for your identity, who you were, because you felt disconnected from your family, you didn't feel like you belonged there.
Yeah, and this is when I was very young.
Yeah, so when you feel that sense of belonging, sort of like not where it used to be, but then, you know, I do belong somewhere. Where is this place do I belong? That's when under the course you go into this place of curiosity. You want to learn more about yourself, and that's when, after you've been through stage 2, when you think that I'm the observer now, and you become detaching from your ego. And when you become an observer, you start to realize, you know, I'm not those things, that story I used to say. Then if I'm not those stories, if I'm not that, you know, that wounded child anymore, so who am I? And that's when you end up in stage 3, when you start thinking, I want to learn more about this. I want to go deeper in understanding of who I am. So like I said, my experience, I grew up, I was very religious, in the sense like I thought, obviously that's what I was taught in the programming, but there was a part of me felt like the religion still held me back. I wasn't allowing myself to fully experience my connection with God. So I find myself over the years changing from religion to spirituality. Because spirituality to me was me having that direct connection with God in my own unique way, where I felt like it's where I was going to actually understand who I am through my own unique connection. And religion, I felt like somebody else's rules and regulations, and it wasn't mine. But then I felt like religion, for me, it was still like fear-based. For me at that time, if you don't do this, and then you're not going to be accepted. It still felt like you were thriving, or you're trying to fight to belong somewhere. With spirituality, there's no resistance. It was just I
feel like it's more free.
It's freer, and then you felt like there's two-way communication, because you started understanding through that, which I started reading, researching, and realized that spirituality understood who I am as this energy life force being. Whatever I did learn through religion, through the Gurbani, I understood that more when I went into spirituality. But when I was doing in religion, it's more parrot fashion. You just learned because you talked to. But I went into spirituality. What is actually the deeper meaning of those the Gurmukhi words? And even like the Peli Padi, Mool Mantra, I got deeper understanding when I understood it through that through quantum physics and all that understanding, that how the universal laws work, how does our mind and imagination work, where is this energy, the life force that constantly you're connected to. That's when you start going through stage 3, wanting to know, I'm more than this just body and flesh. Who am I? And this God, it's not this person, it's not even a person, it exists everywhere, in the air we breathe, this table we're touching, you sitting next to me, God is experiencing God through Gurdiyal. So God, sare paase vasa, and this is what happens in stage 3, when we just want to search and have a deeper understanding.
And connection with God, I think. And I think, when we're at stage 3, it is all about searching, and it's almost like you just want to dive deep into an abyss of information just to kind of see what life is all about, and I think it's such a beautiful space to be in. And I don't think when you want that deeper understanding, I don't think it finishes. You never actually arrive somewhere where you think, oh, that's it, I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about spirituality, because there is so much to learn. But when I think about Gurbani from when I was young, I know that ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਹੁਣ Gurbani ਪੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਹਾਂ, or if I read anything, I see it from a different angle. You just kind of have that deeper understanding of certain words that ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੁਣ ਗੁਰਮੁਖੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, they would know it from that young age, but I think we come at it from a completely different angle, because we haven't been given that soji from the first day, so it's a lot of self-learning.
But you realise that even though stage 3 we're looking for books and we're looking for some inspirational quotes or links and things, but you get to a point that the Lord we need hundi, because once you start having that connection to the depth of knowledge, and it's like the universal energy, this is ocean of abundance of knowledge that we carry in us. Then you get to a stage that appe inspiration appe aa jindi hai, that you get to a stage that you don't even need to read or listen to anything, and then when you get to that connection, sometimes like when I'm talking, all of a sudden this information just comes out of nowhere,
and that happens with us. When we're doing these shows and programs, we get that inner knowledge or inspiration that just naturally comes up.
That's where channeling comes. All of a sudden thinking, but I didn't even read this anywhere, because it's all the answers and solutions of who we are, what we are, already set under us there. And this is the beauty about this, that you don't even need books and things,
And I think it's synchronicities. When we talk about what we're going to do and things like that, sometimes we find that because we're so interested in this and we're so in alignment, I think, don't forget we have our own challenges within our own, families, friends, community, whatever. But still, because we're both kind of on the same page that we kind of come up with the same kind of ideas, and we know that our message is so important, not just for ourselves, because we're continuously learning,
and it's all about vibrations,
but to share it out.
We're sort of like on the same vibe, so it comes very telepathic. So it could sort of hogi, I'll just say it out. That's what
and
happens.
vice versa.
And that's how everything works in life. So we can go on to stage 4. Oh my God, on stage 4.
Do stage 4 now, the emergence of the authentic self.
This is very good.
My favourite.
I know. So this is stage 4, when we're giving birth to the new version of us. We can't relate to the old person and how we used to behave and our characteristics. So there will come a point when you cannot pretend or fake or play this facade anymore. So there is a stage when your authentic self emerges, and this is what you love, because you're about
authenticity.
And so this is your speciality. So you know that the self that used to be, which I call it the not self, I like referring it as that. When you were a kid before, were trained and conditioned, you're not part of that. You feel like, I can't identify that person. And now when I think about it, even 10 years ago, I can't identify myself with the person I was, let's say, even 5 years ago. Because the more we get more understanding of who we are, and we're trying to be in the stage of just allowing ourselves to connect more, you keep changing so much over months. And so while that stage will emerge, when you will find that you can no longer repress your voice. And we do that quite often now. All of a sudden, that Bella, many years ago when I was younger, I felt I couldn't express myself because I didn't have that knowledge or awareness. But now I feel like something just makes me speak and allow me to me to suppress anything.
And I think that's conditioning, isn't it? It's because that's, say like 10 years ago, you would have been at stage 1, where you feel like you can't speak because of your family or your friends or judgment, and everything is happening to you, and this is where you're living a more conscious life.
So you find yourself, you have no tolerance for like say unbalanced relationship. If a job that doesn't suit you, you just you resonate with, you're ready to leave it. You can't able to hang on there. Like some people I know a client had, and she has quite a few illness and symptoms because she was in a job she wasn't happy with, but even though she couldn't speak it, but her body's symptoms expressing it, even though she couldn't do it vocally. So that symptoms was telling her that's not the job she needs to be, and she quit her corporate job. But that's what happens at this stage, that you cannot pretend or play that facade anymore to be something you're not. So even if you can't express it, the body symptoms will express it for you, and your body's saying, I can't live this pretense anymore.
And then you've got other examples, through horrific circumstances, losing your home, lifelong friends and family falling away, and years of being in isolation. But being in this stage, you do find your soul purpose as old energy is leaving and new energy is coming into your life, into your body. So you might start to notice that you start purging out old emotional wounds, tsunami, or psychological trauma, even the minute ones that you had forgotten. So the feelings of hurt, rejection, all of these, you start to accept that kind of stuff, and you're starting to change, and you're letting go of all of these things. So this is what's happening in stage 4. You might also experience physical symptoms, because prani thodi energy jithe tusi you were saying negative things and stuff like that, really not being compassionate to yourself. Your body is realigning. It's almost like the earth was moving underneath you, shaking off all the stuff that didn't serve you, and now you're coming out a bit like a phoenix, the big strong bird who sort of comes out and is so stronger. And you might see things, you might see things multi-dimensional from, you might have premonitions, visions, and so many other things. All the aches and the pains, the depression, you're crying, and you're surrendering to letting go of everything. You're surrendering, and you're ready for this new version of who you are, and you don't care about what people think about you. That's the biggest thing, I think, in this part.
Freedom.
It's the biggest freedom, because you're no longer worried about what people think about you, and that has got to be the most growth, because I think we all live in a place of fear. So
that's why we have these different masks, and we live this, you know, pretense.
Yeah, different masks for different people.
So we're not really living authentically. That with this sort of type of people, I have to, you know, behave this way. Yeah. And this sort of people are going to behave this way, you know. So, like as a wife role, we're different. As a mother, as a child, as a sister at work, we play these different roles, but we're not playing our true, authentic self. And then when you get into this stage, you're thinking, you know, I can no longer. The soul is saying to high conscious, you can no longer function this way because your soul is on another purpose. You're here to self-realization, who you are, to true essence. Yeah. So when you made it that decision, I just cannot continue living like this, this facade. Just making that decision, your body, you know, a whole physiology changes. Because we're vibrational beings. So the source, every thought will have a different impact on our organs, on our system, you know, and immune system, every system in our body. So once we decided to change our relationship with ourselves, that will change energetically. So like we're trying to say, the old energy, we're letting go of the old version of us, so who used to pretend to be something every time. No, actually, I'm just going to speak my truth. This is the person I am. This is who I want to continue living the rest of my life. Let's say, example, let's say I was the type of person who's quite committed on a religious basis and followed the rules and regulations there, and all of a sudden, look how many people I'm, you know, connected with on that area of my life. All of a sudden, I'm deciding I don't want to be that part of life. I want to go and connect more onto the spiritual aspect, where I feel more peace and harmony, and I'm feeling more, I don't know, just more
centered.
Centered and ease. But that change means that I have to let go of all the different roles I was playing. And also, because I've changed my way of thinking and functioning, it does change my physiology. And that's when the purging comes, and you're letting go the fears or the judgment, and obviously the fears of the major fears like being disliked and not being accepted in a group, in a community. And then what we have is physical ascension symptoms, which अपने बंदे के डर जिंदे are. They're thinking, Jordan, I've gone into this awakening thing, Jordan, I'm jaggi, and I started to come back to my truth. I started to feel life's become in my body is come tougher to handle with. I mean, more symptoms, I have more headaches now, I have more aches and pains now. So because there's some calibration going on. So energetically we are changing because our relationship with ourselves, that is source, we badal gaya, so that's going to have direct impact on our physiology. So all of a sudden we can't eat the things that we used to, and we just literally sometimes feel we're dying. It feels like that, because all of a sudden you feel, you know, this one symptom after another, and you're thinking this is no good. You don't want to rather go back to sleep again, go sleep again, because I wasn't feeling all these symptoms. But these symptoms is just a sign that releasing the old stories, the old negative, you know, perception we had about ourselves and the world. And every time the physical symptom is not something the body's making a mistake, we're going wrong. It's just letting go of the old energy, and it's realigning with the positive, the real authentic self of who we are.
And just continuing on from that, this is where you've decided, you know what, you're not bothered. If the people who you used to go out and meet all the time and, you know, used to do it to make them happy, but now all of a sudden it's all about you. You're doing things that are making you happy. You're not a people pleaser anymore. तुसी सोचते हैं अभी जो कुछ भी मैं करना है, I'm going to do it because I feel more connected. I feel that my spirituality, the journey that I'm on, is more important than anything outside of me. So you're living a more authentic life. You might put boundaries in place. You might think, you know what, actually, I don't want to go to that place. I mean, you know, I know you're brilliant at doing this. I'm not so much. I'm not as much, but it's still, like we said, no, there's no wrong, there's no right. We're all on a journey, and it's also about accepting that some people naturally will fall away from your life because they don't like who you're becoming, you know, because they like the old version of you, didn't they? They want to see you on a regular basis. They may not understand. उन्होंने सोचना भी पता नहीं इन्हों की हो गया एकदम बदल गई या जहाँ बदल गया या. But this is you being your authentic self, and you might अगे तुसी ना किसी ने जवाब देंदे होंगे भी नहीं होना जहाँ मैं आ काम नहीं करना, and this is you having new confidence because you're shedding the person that would have just said yes just to make everybody else happy. But now you're confident enough to say, you know what, तुसी गुस्सा ना करियो पर I don't really want to do that, whatever it was, you know, kush bhi hobe, party, family function, or just going for a coffee. You might decide actually my time with myself doing what I love is more important. So and if my friends fall away and don't understand and don't accept it, I'm okay with that. So I think that self-knowledge, that self-love, it just happens, and you know, and you're comfortable being on your own. Because अगे हुंदा सीगा भी नट भज के सारे काम करे होने, keep everybody happy. But now it's turning around where you're doing things that make you happy, and you're okay with other people not being happy. And I think for this stage, that's the most important bit.
Yeah, this is a transition part where it's like you got one foot in the old version of it and one foot ahead in the new version of it, and you're sort of like, you know, you're sitting on the fence sort of thing. But then you can't sit on the fence too long because our higher consciousness will literally push you and thinking, you just get over on the side, you need to go on.
And we've had lots of experiences
and that's when we get, you know, a challenge situation going, well, like I said, I don't want to go into that new job, but you know,
you don't have a choice sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think, but the old job, I'm comfortable in. I know the wages are coming in, but there's part of you knows the soul knows you need to go into the next phase in your life, and you're sitting on the fence, and then before you know it, you got sacked from the old job. It pushes you, Hannah. And it's interesting when we're talking about, you know, saying about when we let go of just pretending who we are and we don't want to play that facade. Have you noticed that we obviously we're talking about you get physical symptoms, the essentials, and why older people get more aches and pains and physical symptoms? It's because they think masari umar. The picture nattan this, and I'm running around looking after my family, the kids. I can't be bothered. Older people thinking batera kar liya, not budge. I just want to sit and relax. And I just want to get on with my life now. Or they just left their job or whatever, thinking, you know, I'm just going to do what I want to do now. Because even in a job, you're not being authentic. You're too busy trying to please everyone, impress someone, you know, want to be recognized for your, you know, all your accomplishments and everything. And the older people started getting more symptoms because all of a sudden now they're letting go of the facade, the pretense. You know, I'm just going to live. The rest of my life, I just want to live on my own accord. And that's why they start experiencing more physical symptoms near that age. And sometimes I'll say, "Hon main jida tusi kya, you know, bathera kar liya, jida marji kan." You know, it's almost like they've let go of all of the judgment. They don't care, but it's taken them until they've become elderly to even be able to say that. So it's a big thing for them, and it's a big thing for the family because the family is so used to that person doing everything. But there comes a time when you know that you can't because you're just not comfortable being the person that everybody expects you to be. And I think that's so difficult, you know. And you, like Jidasi Kiaya, you can spend lifetimes just being a people pleaser because it's easy, it's the safest option. There's no growth, even though you want to grow, but because there's so much pressure from everybody else for you to fit into that box and stay in that box, you're scared to be anything else. That's right.
And I mean, you know, we do a radio show, and I'm just bringing this in, and there's a lady on there who's quite elderly, and she says to us, I've learned so much from the talks that we do because she felt like she was just existing, but through listening to what we talk about, she feels like she's learning something new. So she's been in that box for such a long time, and then all of a sudden now she's like, oh, मैं कदे दा सोचा नहीं सी भी मैं भी अपनी मर्जी कर सकती हूँ, because you know she's been molded so strictly to be this housewife, mother, daughter, whatever it is. But even at the age of 70, 75, she's still fulfilling everybody else's needs and not her own.
Habit binding is like,
and I think that's so beautiful.
But like I said, jo kuch sare life ch ho raha, like when we get emotional, you know, upheaval, physical symptoms ज़्यादा हो लग जाते हैं इच कोई गलती नहीं हैगी we start seeing the bodies working against us but it all depends on whatever we're believing and our thinking जिदा साडी सोच है ना so this सोच thinking I don't want to continue living this facade. I don't want to pretend to be a person just to fit in somebody's life or a group or society. That's just like you're living a slave and you're living in such a disempowering way that my happiness depends on other people accepting me, but I have to pretend to be someone I'm not. And that's not a very authentic, and that's living in fear. And fear straight away puts us in separation, lack, and we're disconnected from God. And that God is we're disconnected from our true essence of who we are. So just understand the physical symptoms or thinking, what is it that I'm releasing and letting go and purging? Because my thinking has changed somewhere here that I'm actually this physical symptom, I'm healing something, I'm thinking something more where I feel I need to connect with God or gone into forgiveness or I've let go of a story. The physical symptoms are a sign that's a communication that we are healing something.
And also this is the stage where you will be surrendering, and sometimes God does bring us to our knees before we can even get to the stage 5, where is a life of alignment. So being your authentic self, it's tough, it's not easy, to be honest, and sometimes we have to be brutally honest when we're telling somebody, because some people just won't accept this new version of who you are. And it's going to take time for people to understand what your journey looks like, but we're here to say that whatever it is that brings joy, happiness, laughter, more connection to God, then that is your true calling. Whatever your soul purpose is, you'll know that from a very, very young age. I feel, but this stage I feel is the most difficult, where you're purging, you're letting go of your old story, you're becoming this new person, who's more authentic. And but this is where we say depression, you're refusing to be something that you're not, and to let go of that, you have to go through such a difficult depressive state to then emerge as the real person that you were always meant to be. But it took that illness for you to now become the person that you were always meant to be, to let go of that heavy feeling of being a people pleaser. So I think
that was a blessing in disguise. So depression, anxiety is a blessing in disguise. But like our most biggest fear is that if I change, if I stop pretending, then I might offend someone. They're not going to like it if I'm being my authentic self. Or upset, or if I'm trying to be too honest and too open, or I'm trying to be too happy, or I'm trying to be too blunt with my decisions, or look kind of upset.
And people will say, that's such a horrible, awful thing to say, because really we're not accepting the person who's actually making a change and trying to improve their life and doing what makes them happy, but the other person doesn't like it, so they'll say something that's negative, because really they, at that stage in their life, they're not courageous enough or confident enough to do what you're doing. So you're also inspiring people, even if they're not liking it. You are inspiring people.
But when you started to actually allow yourself to let go of this old pretense, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? And thinking, and I know quite a few people thinking, I can't do this, and I said it's natural, because when we change, nobody likes change. Everybody's used to being their old way of functioning and behaving. It's easier, and you think people are just going to accept you. But then andar thonu kuch becheni hundi hai, and you just say, I can't continue like this, because you ignore that signs on emotional level. But if you continue playing that facade pretense, and then thonu koi physical symptoms are like some people have constant headaches, some people have constant backaches, some upset tummy, digestive issues. That body's trying to say to you, you're not listening on emotional level, and I'm trying to give you, that's another awakening. I'm knocking on the door really hard now, shouting that change, stop this pretense. Don't worry about dunya ki kendiya. But through my own experience, when I started doing this, there is a part of element of me that thinking, I don't know if they're going to get upset or not, probably they will, but you know what, I'm upsetting myself more by ignoring myself and not being truthful to myself, and I want the world to be truthful to me. And so why can't I be truthful to myself? So to a lot of patience and himmat, and you have to be brave about it.
And with faith, I think, as well.
Faith. The more I started doing it, the people I was worried about, they actually now they respect and love me more than they did when I was playing that role. They love me more now and respect me more because I started to love and respect myself more.
And that's where I mean, you know, you can be the person that's inspiring to others, because really you're a bit of a beacon, because how are they living their life? But it's through going through that really, really difficult stage of deciding that, you know what, I have to be me. There's a part of your life when you start questioning yourself and saying, well, who am I? You know, what is it that I enjoy? What is it that I love? What is it that makes me happy? And when you're doing everything to make everybody else happy, this difficult stage will come upon you, whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime, we don't know. But anyway, so that's that one, and we're just going to quickly skip on to stage 5. It's a life of alignment.
Yes, so stage 5, and so at this stage you are living a life of alignment, so where you are aligned with every part of you and everything else. So that's where you're becoming more conscious, you are becoming more aware of your patterns, your behaviors. Automatic siga, you're doing it without even, it's like, you know, like your subconscious mind, it controls your heart rate, your digest, it's happening automatically. And our programs were happening automatically, and now we're becoming more conscious and becoming aware of my patterns and my behaviors, usually the dysfunctional ones. So you're living more connected to yourself, your soul, your mind, your body. You have more compassion, and you're able to forgive others. The reason why you can forgive others now, because you realize there's no really others. Others are me. When you're living in alignment of your truth, and you realize that others were just there to remind me of who I really am, and they triggered me enough to make me realize what in me, that wounds or stories I needed to purge and let go. So this is being in alignment. So you start being the parent that you needed, and start having the unconditional love for yourself. So, you know, we thought our parents were the ones that are supposed to take care of us, protect us, support us, and then you start realizing they were just mirroring back to us. They needed to show us where we needed to learn to support ourselves, you know, protect ourselves. And when we're doing that, we realize that the asli support mil diya na, or that's the Rab within us, supporting us 24/7. Parents are here just for a short period of time, and who we are, we're eternal beings, there's no beginning or end, and that support is always there. So this is what happens with when you're being in alignment.
And just continuing on from that, you have compassion for yourself and others. So ਇਹਦੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਾਫੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾਲੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲੇ ਹੋਰਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, just because that's part of your journey, and you know, and you're being in the moment, and you know, where you're being kind to others and to yourself. So not only are you connected with yourself, but you're connected to everything around you. You realize you're connected to the trees, the plants, the animals, the air, the earth, the solar system, and space, and even the furniture, which sometimes I find difficult to understand, but it's and you're connected with the spiritual realm. So knowledge and wisdom, it just comes to you. You know, before we can even speak. Now we don't, I mean, I know you've read more books than me, but I feel like I'm just allowing things to come up, and just to use my own inner knowledge and try and kind of tap into that more than anything else.
I don't feel I started doing these courses, and then realized these courses was taking me from, because we all have that innate depth of knowledge, and I felt that was more authentic and genuine, because when you start reading books and other things, they still have their understanding perspective. So I find myself actually, you know, pulling myself away from that, and just connecting with the knowledge we all have within ourselves.
And I think that's beautiful. So you start understanding that there is not a right and wrong of being a higher or lesser way of being. क्योंकि कई बार इसी सोचते हैं भी ओ बढ़िया मैं तो कितना पहुँचना. We just have to accept the journey that we're on, and that we're all moving forward in whichever way we are. So we're all playing our part and holding our space, benefiting each other, and being the expression of God at every level. But you also see the darker side of things as well, but you know, not in a cynical way, but in a more compassionate way. So ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਗਲਤ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ, you're not as harsh or you know, nasty or unkind about it. You just kind of look at it from a loving, kinder and compassionate way. And this is the bit that, you know, we're all God at all stages.
So we come more in a nature of curiosity. We're like explorers, you know, want to explore life and challenges, and when we got triggered, think, oh, what is this for me to learn from here? Instead of saying, I mean, like, yo hoya.
Hi.
Something out of this, it's mere fair waste koi cheez ho rahi hai. So you become into that sort of mindset, hai na? And zindagi ka pana vich mithai hunda. So actually, where's mithyaas in this pana? So you come to that sort of understanding, and you sort of like change the challenge into an opportunity.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful opportunity.
Perspective, I think.
Yeah. So it just, you know, like, it's all about, you know, perspective, and just realizing that everybody is truthful to them. So the most important about this stage, it takes you out of judgment, especially judgment for yourself and judgment for others, because you realize that if there's something in me that I'm still not in alignment with, that I'm still not connected to my truth and being authentic, and that person, through their behavior, inappropriate behavior, they just made me aware of something I'm not in alignment with. So that's why we come in that place of forgiving, and more in the place of understanding. They had to be like that in order for me to realize how I can be more in alignment with myself, and that there is deeper connection, because like there's no end to this connection. No, we can have more and more depth of understanding of who we truly are at our core. And
just sort of finishing off, in conclusion, there's no stage that is superior to another. No matter what stage you're on, you know, we're all God being expressed, not expressed. So even if you're in the first stage of being unconscious, you're still experiencing life. God does not judge, you know, He's the observer, He's love, He's compassionate. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I think we forget that. So spiritual awakening is not about reaching a certain destination and then we're done. So there's no life, so, you know, it continues on and on, not just through this lifetime, but, you know, in lifetimes again and again. And we have this quote that we both spoke about, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, "Hum nahi change, bura nahi koi." So I'm not good and no one is bad. So the lessons we have to understand is that, you know, we're going to continue, we expand, you know, this is who we are.
Yeah, we're like, at our core, like I said, since we're this universal energy, and if you think about the universe, it's eternal, and there's no end to it. It keeps expanding, and we're expanding through the human experience, so all these challenges. And when we actually take the lesson from it and actually see this challenge, how was it helping me to grow, and actually taken on board the lesson from it, then we've expanded, we've grown. So that's what I mean, there's never end to this journey, and we're going to keep on evolving. Even when we've gone past this human experience, gone to the spirit world, doesn't mean you stop there, you keep expanding there as well. But I think what's the most beautiful thing out of this whole 2 episodes, it teaches you that we have to understand we're responsible 100% for everything jo kuch ho raha hai, we're responsible for it, depending on what we think and we believe and the stories we tell. And you know, that's where we have to stop comparing. You know, there's no comparison, there's no competition, koi race nahi hai at all. You know, who is more understanding, who's got more soji. You know, someone in the first stage who's feeling triggered, who's doing the patterns, they are still just as connected to God as much as someone who's more inspiring. So obviously we're into the self-awareness. That's what we're learning on this journey, and we're just having just journey of just awakening all the time.
And so we're just concluding now, but you know, we will sort of dip back and forth. Every stage is as important. You know, like we've already said, there's no race. Koi galat nahi hai, koi sahi nahi hai. Wherever we are, it's just perfect, and we're all on a journey where we're learning to connect more with ourselves and more with Rabb, and that is the whole purpose of being here. But during that journey, we have consciously decided through Love, Laugh and Live that we're going to going to do it through love. We're going to do it through love, through laughter, and that is what we are deciding consciously. That's going to be the way we want to live our lives. And don't get us wrong, you know, we still have all of our challenges, and you know, we can definitely go back to stage one of where, you know, we can be angry and critical and cynical and, you know, react rather than be rather than respond, and this is where we're not taking responsibility for our actions. So, you know, it is always going to be that cycle of, you know, going through the different spiritual awakenings that we're talking about. So your stages can change throughout your self-awareness, you know, at any point. So I'm just thinking, so just be conscious.
Yeah, and like I said, there's no race. We keep saying that because a lot of the people think that, you know, I don't know if I could ever be like that because I can't get let with my story. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, like I said, I don't see the difference between Sant Mahatma and someone who's a beggar on the street. I feel it's upside and which was there. It doesn't matter what race, what religion, what, you know, what's your doctor or you're someone working in the, you know, beauty parlor. That is upside and vastaya. So that's understanding. You got to have that. The most human faults, or we have that is we keep thinking that everyone is on this competition of, you know, they're more qualified or they're more, you know, established, or they're more like they got better property. This is where we disconnect ourselves and we go into separation. Separation again and gone into judgment. We are actually not growing and we're not learning and we're disconnected. But then, you know, even and if you know somebody in your family who are, let's say you know somebody in your family, they're on stage 1 and you feel like you're on stage 4 or 5, right? Then you got to understand, if they're in stage 1, then you can be understanding and compassionate, in not going to the place of thinking, oh, I'm better.
Yeah.
That then you are really not in stage 4 or 5. You are probably in stage 1 yourself. So it's interesting having these stages and a 1, 2, 3, and 4. Even the numbers make it sound like, but really I would call it, they're all stage 1, 1, 1, 1. I would call it. I wouldn't even say 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say they're all the same stages, but they're all having their unique, wonderful experiences. And like I said, we come into this life for, you know, on this planet in this life form, to have these different experiences. You know, Rab wants to experience itself. What does it feel like to go through, like say, separation? What does it feel like to cry? What does it feel like to laugh? What does it feel like to enjoy, you know, an ice cream? What does it feel like to have a cup of tea? What does it feel like to wake up? What does it feel like to just simple thing like you know, run the block? So it's come to have all those, you know, millions and millions of experiences, but none of them are wrong.
Yeah. So in essence, what we're saying is be conscious of your mental diet, you know, becoming less of the ego, to be attached to more, so it's to be less attached to your ego, and then kind of coming into your story. You know, try and look at being the observer, look at the person that you are, and look at what changes you would want to make if that's where you are. So basically you're just becoming more responsible for your life and letting go of blame and victim mentality, and through doing that you are automatically moving into a different or a more evolved state of spirituality. And you know, sometimes, and what I wanted to say was that we are all conscious of where we are. We know as human beings living spiritual beings living a human life, we know when we've done something wrong, we know when we've done something right, because everything within our body tells us, even though we may ignore it, but it's there. Sanu pata jadon assi kisi nu dukh ditta hai, sanu pata jadon assi kisi nu takleef ditti hai, ਜਾਂ assi kisi nu pyar kita hai, ਜਾਂ you know, compassionate bane. I don't know what's the word for compassionate.
Hamdardi.
Hamdardi. Not sure, but it's just where we are conscious, and we know that that's the area where we need to grow more. Where, you know, we might be judging other people and thinking I'm better than you. No, that's not right, because nobody's better and nobody's worse. We are just at different stages of our life, of evolvement. You know, some people are happy to stay sitting at home watching TV all day or going out for walks. That's fine, as long as you feel that whatever you're doing, you're living a life of authenticity, where you're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself, and you're living from a place of love, compassion, care, all the beautiful things that we talk about when we're thinking about God.
So we normally say, where does God exist? No, the real quote, or like say the statement is, where God doesn't exist. There's no place that Rab nahi vasta hega. So je Rab thode, the person who, you know, gave you a difficult time, that means Rab ode vich bhi vasta hai. You know, in your symptoms, in your, you know, the air, the food we eat, there's no place jithe Rab nahi vasta. So this is where we need to understand that jithe vi sare hai, whatever journey, whatever life experience they're going through, ona vaste sahi hai and sade vaste sahi hai. We have to let go of thinking this someone's better or someone's less. No, everybody's perfect jithe ona de journey asi hai. So I really do hope that you understood these two episodes of understanding the awakening stages we're on.
It's our favourite subject.
It is, and you know, tomorrow we could be on stage 2 and the day after stage 3, but each stage is just where we're meant to be. But the way we like to do it is like love, laugh and live. We can, you know, see, you know, pyar karke has ke ji sakte hain, or we can be on a stage as you ro pit ke, you know, lad ke ji sakte hain.
Sanu kaate idda hoy.
Yeah, sanu kaate hoy. But it's at the end of the day, be conscious of tusi kitta jeena chahande this life, and use these experiences just to learn and be curious and just have fun.
Joy.
Yeah, joy, fun.
Sat Sri Akal.
So thank you,
really
Sat Sri Akal.
Bye bye.